Good evening, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Book of Sean. And it's Friday. I was just telling my guests how much I like saying the word Friday. That's how much I love it. And today is Friday. You made it through another week. We got here together by hook or by crook or by the skin on our chins. Here we are at the close of a week. I'm so glad you made it. I'm so glad we got here. And so I celebrate all of you for joining me in this moment, being a part of this conversation tonight. Tonight's conversation, you already know what it's about, because I'm never this excited about anything else. Tonight's conversation is about love. Yes, tonight is an installment in the love series. You know, we do it all the time. And I have some of the best minds, therapists, theorists I could possibly find tonight. Moment we're going to have together. If you need some advice, some direction, some motivation, some inspiration about the marriage you're in, the marriage you hope to find, the relationship that you are looking to build, or hell, just being single. How about that? Because you picked the right night to join me. And so I'm so glad you're here. So get comfortable, settle in, take your shoes off, get you something to drink, whatever you like. Let's have a good show tonight. Now, before I bring my guest on, you know, I always do a few headlines, and there are two headlines that I gotta bring you tonight. So listen to this. A young man in Florida is the first Black valedictorian at his high school. Temi Eladukan. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Temi Eladukan is the first Black valedictorian at his high school in Florida. Now check this out. He has a 5.6 GPA.
Awesome.
Listen, I didn't even know a 5.6 GPA was possible. But Timmy found a way to have a 5.6 GPA, and he's gotten a full scholarship, full ride to Pomona College. And so we give big ups, big shout out. I tip my proverbial hat to my main man, Timmy. Well done, sir. I'm proud of you, boy. Now, but let me say something now, and this is not a slight to Pomona College. But with a 5.6 GPA, Timmy, there's some other schools that want you. I'm just saying, I'm not slighting Pomona College. Somebody in your life just needs to tell you, you got a lot of options, my dear brother. So, but if you want to go to Pomona, go to Pomona. But there's another school up in Cambridge that I know very well that would look at you. So I'm just saying, I'm gonna leave it alone. Timmy, good job, man. Here's my second headline for the night. Listen, there's a woman in Indianapolis who got a stimulus check, and she decided, check this out, to give her stimulus check, the cash, she cashed the check, got the cash, and gave the cash to her favorite restaurant so that the owner of the restaurant could pay workers that worked there. I mean, don't you love that? I mean, if you didn't have a warm, fuzzy feeling right there, there's something wrong with you. This woman cashed the money and wanted to make sure that people who were potentially about to lose their jobs could have a paycheck, have some income, because apparently she understood that the money that came from the government was not money that she depended on or needed. She wanted to make sure that people could get what they need. I love people like that. I love people who function with that kind of worldview, that basic sensibility that it's better to give than receive. You know what I'm saying? That it's better to give than receive, because, you know, giving makes room for more. It does. I'm a firm believer of that. That's why I give every chance I get. So make sure tonight when the show is over and you get to ordering from wherever you order, Postmates or Uber Eats, or make sure you tip the delivery person, because giving makes room for more. And then you just feel better when you do. So shout out to this dear sister who wanted to remain anonymous, by the way. She didn't want anybody to know that she did it. But the owner of the restaurant told people what happened, and that's how I got the story. So, having said all of that, it's Friday. It's the Love Series, and I need you to welcome to the program. He's a psychologist. He's on every show. He's on TV all the time. There's no way you don't know him. He is the one and only Dr. Jeff, and welcome everybody's favorite marriage therapist, Tory and Teri Smith. How y'all doing? I can't hear you. How you doing?
Yeah. Doing great.
Oh, there we go. All right. Welcome, everybody. I am excited to talk to all of you because, as I mentioned before, This is my favorite subject. Now, before we get into love, let's do a little COVID check-in. All right, I do this. I'll start with you. How are you healthy? Are you feeling well? How is the health of the ones that you love?
We're fortunate. We're very fortunate. Everyone is well. We are waiting on the birth of our granddaughter, our first granddaughter.
Nice.
Time now. So, but everybody's well. Everybody in California is well, East Coast and here in Texas, and by the grace of God, we're well.
Yep.
That's good. Tory, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. Can't complain. And like my wife said, you know, we have people all over the country, man, and everybody's, you know, sheltering in place and doing fine.
That's a good thing. Sheltering in place is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
People are saying marching, trying to leave the house and die.
That's right.
Dr. Jeff, how are you, sir? How's your family? How's your circle of love doing?
We're all doing well, Dr. Sean. Being that a lot of time is spent in New York, we're at the heart of the pandemic, so a lot of people have died, of course. We have a lot of incredible first responders, frontline workers, essential workers, medical personnel, police officers, you name it. People who have really, New Yorkers are so tough, and they're going to make it through this. I've been very lucky, very blessed. We had some illness in our family, nothing related to COVID-19, but God is great every time, every single time, every moment of the time. And he has lifted my children. He has lifted us. We stay healthy. You know, one of the things that is important for us to understand that as people of color, we are more at risk for COVID-19. So it's really important that we work out, that we eat healthy, that we take care of ourselves, that we have regular meals and so on. And that's what I've been pushing in my family. That's what I've been pushing to friends, patients, everyone. So if we take care of ourselves, God is going to take care of us.
Amen.
I love that. I love all that. All of it. Now, I expected that from Tory and Teri, but I'm confused. I'm the only heathen on the show today.
Well, you know what they say. They say the best saints were sinners. So I think you just fine, brother. You doing okay.
I'll take it. I'll take it. So listen, let's get into it. Let's get into it because I dare not delay. I dare not delay in the presence of love and in the face of it. So Tory and Teri, I want to begin with you because you have such an interesting journey and story. Tell everybody about how did you meet? Let's start there.
Go ahead.
Oh gosh.
And talk loud because y'all seem far from that mic.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Tory and I met via Facebook. And
Really?
it was really interesting actually because I mean, both of us were caught by surprise. I stumbled across him when I had gone through a breakup and I was really done. I was really done. And excuse me, I was in my closet getting dressed for work. And I had broken it off because I really wanted a man of God. I wanted a really good guy that just understood values, you know, principles, and also believed in God. And so I was angry because I had, you know, basically process of elimination. It just didn't work with certain people. And so while I was in my closet getting dressed, I just cried out to God. And I said, you know what, you're going to have to come down in sandals yourself. I'm done. I was mad. Tears rolling down my face. You know, when you roll down your face and you're mad, I was mad. And I called out all my family members, you know, up in heaven. I said, you guys know that I'm really trying to be obedient and do this the right way. And I called on my uncle who had passed away. And he turned me on to Hall & Oates and all the good music back in the day. And, you know, I had a connection with him. So I was able to just say, you know, Uncle General. And I went on about my business. And so I'd say maybe 24 hours later or so, I didn't really, you know, I don't know when it was to connect the dots, but I was going to bed and I opened up my Facebook page and I'm in bed, ponytail, Noxzema, and I see him. And I'm like, where did he come from? Because I'm funny about letting people in. You know, they would stack up in my friends requests and I'd let him through bits at a time and, do a little check on him, right? So I go to his page, really, I go to his page and he only had like 300 friends and it was a scripture that had come up and I was like, oh my God, he's sang in the choir. And I was just like, oh my God, look at this guy.
Oh my God.
California, it's midnight, you guys. And so I'm clicking like on just picture of him and his daughter and just, well, sleepless in Seattle in Maryland, 3 o'clock in the morning, he's getting all these notifications.
Yeah, it woke me up out of my sleep. I was like, I thought it was somebody was texting me or something. And I'm like, who's sending me all these messages right now? And every time she clicked on a picture or so, I got a Facebook notification. So I get up and I'm like, who is this? And I'm looking, and I don't know why, but inside my soul said, it's her, right?
But you know what's interesting? The fact that you found integrity on Facebook is a miracle unto itself. Let's just say that, because that's improbable. But Tory, let me change direction slightly.
Okay.
And ask you, how did your past prepare you for this relationship?
You know what? While I was in my past, I was thinking, because I used to be the runaround guy. Then I was married, and I had a tumultuous marriage, and I was always like praying to God, what's going on? Why am I in this bad marriage? But little did I know that marriage was preparing me for our profession now.
Exactly.
And I was, me personally, I was looking for a Proverbs 31 woman, and I just wasn't able to find one.
She weighed like me.
But let me tell you, Dr. Sean, ironically, this woman at the church said, you bring all these women here, you're dating all these women. How come you haven't asked me out, or anything? I said, well, I'm looking for a particular type of woman. And she said, what type of woman is that? I said, a Proverbs 31 woman. And she said, well, what's a Proverbs 31 woman? I said, if you don't know, you ain't the one.
You ain't the one. Wait, no, I love that. And what I love about that, is that knowing what you want and what you're looking for is at least half of the success of finding it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't do one unless there's a connection to the other. Dr. Jeff, it's interesting because I have a different question for you altogether. Because let's do this. Aristotle said that the only way to be ethical or moral was to be habituated, to be taught. You have to be taught morality. Mm-hmm. It's not just in there. You have to be trained. What I'm wondering is this, and you may not know in any detail, but I think you can speculate. Love is so hard and relationships are so complicated and difficult. Why don't we teach people, I mean, literally teach people how to be married or how to be in a relationship?
Well, that's what Tory and Teri do. That's what your studies have been based on, Dr. Sean, because a lot of people feel that this is something that they should develop innately. But in fact, I think we need to have the wisdom to understand that we can learn from failed relationships. We can learn from successful relationships. We can learn from the relationships that other people, famous people, not so famous people have had. That's why I don't think we learned our lesson with regard to COVID-19. We saw what was going on in all these other countries, yet we stuck our heads in the sand and made a lot of the same mistakes they made initially, but didn't learn from their progress. So when we look at successful couples, when we have Teri and Tory who are modeling for people, not just teaching them, not just worshiping and praising with them, but actually are walking and living models, role models. If we don't listen to them, if we don't watch them, if we don't hear what they're saying, then we find ourselves making the same mistakes over and over again, because it is a science. It is complicated, and we have to learn the pieces of the puzzle. Not everyone is as lucky to fall into something or circumstance, but if you learn how to dance to the music of love, then certainly you will be able to find that romance, the overtures of love.
Dr. Jeff, your answer, because it included a sociological aspect, is right in line with where I want to go. Because I'm wondering, and we teach science, we teach math, we teach literature. Is our society so completely loveless, so devoted to desire and sexuality that we do not make it a part of a curriculum because this culture does not value love?
Well, they certainly didn't in the old world. And now we're in the new world. And I think people are finding out that we can't be a divided nation. We have to work together. We can't be a divided house. We have to work together. We can't be divided couples. We have to make it work. So it's really important that we learn to rely on one another and understand that love is important. Respect is important. Romance is important. Intimacy is an extension of the love that you feel for someone else and not just the one night stand. Now we're being forced to date.
Hello.
Now we're being forced to spend time to get to know the other person. Now now we have the time to learn our values and what's really important about loving ourselves so that we can learn to love that person who will become our soulmate. Now we believe in soulmates. Loneliness and social distancing can really begin to teach you the importance of having a soulmate.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Teri, I'm coming, but I want to ask Dr. Jeff one more question. Just a subtle change of direction. Dr. Jeff, what are some of the most common misconceptions that couples have when they start to enter into relationship with each other?
I think one of the biggest ones, Dr. Sean, is that everything goes in a certain pattern of a straight line. And what we're learning is it's not a straight line. Some days you're going to love one another. Some days you're not going to, I wouldn't say despise one another. Some days you're not going to like one another. But the important thing is to stay in that a certain pattern of a straight line. And what we're learning is it's not a straight line. Some days you're going to love one another. Some days you're not going to, I wouldn't say despise one another. Some days you're not going to like one another. But the important thing is to stay in that marriage, that you're talking to someone else, especially someone who now you're feeling attracted to be able to work out what your relationship is. All your secrets, all that intimacy stays within the relationship.
Dr. Jeff, I'm gonna cut you off because I gotta get to Tory and Teri, but I got one more quick follow. Give me a concise answer to this. What's the craziest thing you ever heard a couple say?
Darling, I hate you because I love you so much.
That is crazy. Tory and Teri, I gotta leave Dr. Jeff alone.
We could have said the exact same thing that he said because we hear it all the time.
People are afraid because people are afraid of that vulnerability. Darling, I hate you because I love you so much, because you have my heart. I'm giving you everything. And I'm just afraid that I may fall. You may hurt me. People don't want to be vulnerable, but you have to understand, to be in a successful marriage, in a relationship, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be hurt. It happens. But if you stay the course, chances are you can do that together and it's not so scary.
That's rich. All of that's rich. So Tory and Teri, listen, I have a question that you two are uniquely suited to answer. All right, here it is. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. Look at them preparing themselves. What makes marriage different? How is it different from dating? How is it different from living together? Different.
Can I?
Go ahead.
No, you. Well, you.
Go ahead.
Okay. For me, in my idea of what marriage is and what makes it so sacred is there's
talk louder, Teri.
Sorry. For me, I believe that what makes it so sacred is that there's honor. There's honor because of the vows. There is honor there. And so that sets you apart from anyone else that you've ever dated or been with, because that puts you on that pedestal where you belong, because there's honor there. And that honor is that's the glue. That's honor, you know? That's the glue.
And for me, not to sound so churchy or anything like that, but
it's all right. Dr. Jeff started it, so go ahead.
The truth of the matter for me is that, and the biggest difference is, we're in a covenant with God, a covenantal relationship with God, and we rely on God so much that He's part of this union here. And if you're single, you don't have that.
Exactly.
At all.
And so that right there, that is the defining moment.
I don't know if I agree with that, but keep going. Keep going.
To that honor. That's back to that honor. My level of anger or just festivity only goes so far because I still honor this man. He's the Lord of our home. He's the patriarch of our family, as well as I'm the matriarch. And so if I get mad, I might stomp upstairs, but nobody's going anywhere. Do you understand?
I love that. I might stomp upstairs, but nobody leaving the house. I'm going to ask you, Tory and Teri, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to start with Tory. Give me some conversations that every couple needs to have. These are topics, these are subjects that every couple should at some point have these conversations. What are they?
Well, first of all, before they even get married, they need to ask tough, hard questions before they even enter into the relationship, because there's certain
things. Like what questions?
I mean, there are boundaries. There's moral and ethical questions. What do you stand for? What are your core beliefs and things? So you want to know as much as you can intimately about the other person versus just seeing what they have to say on the surface. You got your chatter that you have when you're on the first date and everything, what your name is and all that good stuff, But the thing is that everybody does that, but no one asks, what do you stand for? What are you bringing to the table? It's not about money, but what are you bringing into this relationship that I'm weak in, areas that I'm weak in, and we go from there. But that's one of the things that we teach, and as far as premarital counseling, and even some couples that we counsel that are already married.
Okay, so I got it. So we need to know what you stand for. What else? What are some more subjects that every couple should talk about at some point?
Setting boundaries.
Boundaries, that's a good one.
You have to be able to set boundaries, within
no threesomes. Oh, come on, that was funny.
We laugh.
Look at Dr. Jeff. I'm praying for you. Go ahead. What? So boundaries. What are you saying for? Give me one more at least.
And the big one, I don't even know whether to place this one above those, but 99% of every client we get, every lead prospect that we receive, the number one issue is communication. The number one issue is communication. And it's not like, carrying on a conversation. It's like they don't know how to speak to each other. They don't know how to speak to each other's love language. Dr. Jeff said something important earlier about knowing who you're with. And we have a term that we use when we're counseling, and we call it re-knowing your spouse, because a lot of things change in your relationship. There's a lot of ups and downs, ebbs and flows and all, but a lot of things change in your relationship that you may not be aware of your spouse. So you constantly have to re-know your spouse all the time.
No, that's rich, and I think Dr. Jeff, that people, this has been my experience. People are good at talking; they just ain't good at listening.
I agree. And you know who's really bad at not listening? Men. Because many times and I know that's not the case with Tory and Teri, but many times, I'm giving you blanket immunity, okay? Many times when women...
No, I didn't get no immunity. What the hell?
Dr. Sean, you don't need immunity because you're the one who starts all the stuff, okay?
Whoa.
Brother, you are bulletproof. Don't get me started, okay? That's why you do what you do, and you do it well.
But take that, Jocelyn. Keep going, Dr. Jeff.
But I don't know. I forgot my point now.
Men.
Oh, men.
Listen. Yes.
Yeah. When a woman speaks to a man, I'm just here, I'm talking about in heterosexual couples, but, it could be any kind of couple, but specifically in heterosexual couples, when a woman talks to a man, she doesn't want him to keep trying to solve everything. Men don't want to hear it. Men just want to try to solve the problem. All right, we'll do this. We'll throw money at it. We can fix it. We can do that. But really what the woman wants this man to do is just to listen, not to solve anything, just listen. So if men learn to listen, they would have much more success in their relationships.
And Dr. Jeff, if you can throw money at anything, it's not really a problem.
That's true. And I agree with that, because money does solve most of the problems. So if you throw money at it and you can't fix it, then that's an issue.
Exactly.
So Terry, I'm going to ask you the same questions that I asked Tory. Give me some more subjects that every couple should talk about, because there are couples watching tonight and they feel like they're covering all the important things, but I would wager that they are missing some critical conversations, because we tend to talk in spaces that make us comfortable, not in ways that make us necessarily better.
I think that conversations is one, just, going out on a limb and just turning to the other one and saying, how are you? Really a real concern for how, their mate is doing, because people get, even if they're, sheltering in place and working from home, you still have this routine that you're doing. And, some may be sleeping in late, so then their clock is getting off, they're working late and dinner's late, it's all these things. And then some people, are homeschooling children and all. So you really have to make sure that when you have your time together, that you are checking in with your mate. And so it's really seeing how they are. I think that having the time to really focus on one another, no television, really taking an interest in each other, whether even, it being that type of intimacy of chatter and talk about what it is that, where they are currently, because people are experiencing financial, strains with this too. But it's okay to approach it with one another lovingly, because doing that means we're in this together. That's one. Two.
Give me one more.
Okay. Two, I think that they, at this point in time, and that's why this has been very good for us, and I hate that, that others are suffering, but you must utilize your time together as couples to come up with your plan, your purpose of how you're going to be further faster when you come out of this. And so having those talks with each other as team, because you're a team, of what can we do now? What can we start now? What can we put away now? Maybe this is the time to start an LLC, something that is going to be the glue even more so for them, because it's a united, just like raising your children or taking care of elderly parents. This is some glue now to come together, to forge ahead. Like I said, to be further faster. They may have been able to put some money aside or something, but now's the time to really hone in on what their purpose is as a team.
So let's do this. I'm going to give you a list of subjects, and you give me the thumbs up or the thumbs down if you think that these should or should not be discussed with couples. All right, you ready?
All right.
I love this. Is not, to my audience, this is not where my head is. I'm just talking subjects. Sex. Yeah. Dr. Jeff, you didn't vote. What's wrong?
Okay. I just loved what you said about that. Okay. So
okay. Second one, money. Should couples talk about money? Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's one. Raising children. See, what I found that, and I've dealt with a lot of couples that they don't have these conversations. They just assume, we're gonna raise the kids the way I was raised. Or they just assume, we ain't gotta talk about sex. My part works, your part works. Let's go. The reality is, you need to talk about it. Dr. Jeff, am I on to something?
I agree. You know, we had talked about a few things that you should do before you get married. One of those things is I believe you should talk about finances. How many creditors do you have? You know, how much debt do you have? What's going on with that? I think that's one thing that's important. Another one is, are we going to have children? And if we're going to have children, how many do we want to have? Because a lot of couples don't talk about that. And then people end up getting divorced because either, you know, one, of the members wants a lot of children or one doesn't want any children. But even right down to intimacy. How often do you like intimacy? Now, we know intimacy when you're dating is different from intimacy when you're married, right?
What's the difference? What's the difference?
The difference is when you're dating, you're doing it much more. When you're married, you do it much less, but it's more special and it's more intimate.
Why does it change, Dr. Jeff?
Children and responsibilities.
Actually, if I can interject, so that's one of the most common misconceptions about intimacy. People, especially guys, always relate it to sex, right? And intimacy starts in the morning when you wake up, throughout the day. Whether it's a phone call or a text message, or you leaving a card or something on your wife's car or something like that. You're building intimacy points all day long to get to that moment, at night or whenever you like to do it. But the thing is that a lot of people think that when they have intimacy problems, they think that they have sex issues. And that's not necessarily the case.
Especially when it comes to a woman, because she wants to know that that she's on your mind. I mean, one of the things that you can practice when you wake up in the morning, before you get up, you get out of bed and you're ready to go to the bathroom and go, your separate ways to the kitchen, get your coffee started. Stop and hug each other for a good 15 seconds. Just hold each other and just look at each other. Just say
smack her on the butt.
Say good morning. Like that. He's I'm so sorry.
Hey, no. This whole show has to stop. No. This whole show has to stop as we hashtag smack her on the butt. I just want to say that. So Dr. Jeff, Tory, you've added to my life tonight, sir. Dr. Jeff, we hear a lot of talk about the 5 love languages that everybody talks about. Is that a real thing, or is that just somebody made up to make a lot of money?
You know what? Gary Chapman made a lot of money on that, but he was onto something. And I find so many couples really use that term. Well, this is my love language. I wrote them down. My love language is affirmation, or receiving gifts, or quality time, or acts of service, or physical touch. Those are the 5 love languages. And I think he came up with some others around children and so on. But what happens with the love languages, the main point about that, and Dr. Sean, you know this, of course, that it's when you don't understand that love language, or the person who you're expressing it to doesn't understand what it is. But I've come up, since you brought it up, with a couple of different love languages since COVID-19.
Oh, yes. Let me get my pen. Hold on.
All right.
Let's go. Go.
So I came up with 3 more. Instead of quality of time, now we're talking about quantity of time. If you could spend 24 hours a day with that same person and not have, and I'm not talking about domestic violence here or anything like that. That's something that's very serious. But if you're not irritated at one another, and you could still smack the other person on the butt, and you could still hug them after 24 hours a day of being together, that's quantity time. That's a love language. The second one, not so funny, but a real one that I found with working with some of my patients, people who've gotten COVID-19 and their partners saving them. Their partners telling them, I'm taking you to the hospital. I had a couple who were just about to break up, and I remember right before this COVID-19 really hit, I said to them, do you guys really want to break up at the beginning of a pandemic? Do you really want to do this? They stayed together. I heard from them just a couple of weeks ago. Turns out one of them actually got COVID-19. They were at the point of breaking up, but the boyfriend saved her life, told her, you are going to the hospital. She ended up on a respirator. She ended up coming out of it. She's okay now, thank goodness, still recovering. But guess what? They ain't breaking up. You know, he saved her life, and now it's like Sophocles and the thorn. And the last one is that physical touch, which is that love language that Chapman talks about. Now we have the electronic touch, because with social social isolation, social distancing, quarantining, people actually have to make love to one another, intimacy. And I'm not talking about sexting and sending pictures and all of that. I mean, actually taking the time to get to know one another, and they may have to do it through a computer.
You know, Dr. Jeff, let me ask you a follow-up question. First of all of those are more than helpful, and I appreciate you giving that to my audience tonight, and to me, really. But I want to ask you a follow-up question, a bit more subtle. Here it is. What's the difference between a difficult relationship and a good relationship that has difficult moments?
Well, I'd rather be in a good relationship that has difficult moments, of course, because there is a good foundation to land on all the time. Whereas a difficult relationship, you can't seem to connect the dots. You can't seem to understand each other's love languages. It's just one conflict after another, versus what you're talking about, a good relationship that has difficulties, because all good relationships have difficulties, but the difficulties, every time you get through them, makes the relationship even better and stronger.
Oh, that's rich. That's good. That's good. So Tory and Teri, all right, give me some tips tonight, and give my audience some tips tonight for longevity. What are some things that you advise people to do if they want to have long-standing relationships and marriages?
You know, I kind of want to piggyback off of Dr. Jeff, because you know, when you're intimate with your partner all the time like that, especially in a situation, you know, when you're in a pandemic, the thing is that, you know, you tend to grow apart from each other, so you have to be able to connect, you know. And we always say that in a marriage, you know, it's not two perfect people that get together to have a marriage. It's two imperfect people, and they find ways to work through the difficult areas and the challenges of their lives, and still remain the same, come out, you know, together. So that's a big one. And when you were saying that, I was like, oh man, he's reading my mind over here, you know, because that's some of the things that we talk about a lot. But so that's my big one. Again, communications, man. It's nothing that tops every list, because you have to be able to talk to each other. You know.
But Tory, let me push you on that, because the term communication can almost mean anything, right? It really can. It encompasses so much. So be as specific as you can, and help people understand what you mean when you say to someone, the first tip that I want to give you for longevity in relationship is communication. What do you mean by that?
Being able to not just hear what the other person is saying, but mirroring what the other person is saying, so you'll understand, you know, giving validation to how they're feeling, and showing empathy toward them as well, you know, in the things that they say. So you just can't, you know, I heard you, you know. Well, you can hear anything, but are you listening to what I'm actually saying? And again, that's the bone of contention with so many couples. You know, they always they say the same thing all the time. You know, he doesn't listen, or she doesn't listen, or, you know, we can't talk to each other. We're always fussing, because they're not talking to each other. They're talking at each other, and they just don't understand that if two people are talking at the same time, nobody's listening.
So Teri, I'm going to ask you a different question, and it comes out of a different kind of scenario. There are people watching tonight who want to save their relationships. They've come upon hard times, whatever's happened, infidelity, whatever it is, but they want to save it. They want to keep it alive. Give my audience tonight some tips on how you go about doing the hard work of saving a relationship?
What you do and what we talked about earlier, you put your heart on your sleeve and you say, listen.
Say that again, I couldn't hear you.
You put your heart right there on the table to be seen. And one of the things that we always ask a couple before we even get started, right at the consultation, we'll ask, do you want your marriage? And so that is for you to come, offer that as a peace offering, to come and say, I want this. State your truth. I want this. I want this with you. Not just I want a marriage, but I want this with you. And then, you know, I can speak from a woman's standpoint, and I'll let my husband speak from a man's, and I'll try to if you want me to speak from both. But I know I tell women to be the light. I wrote a sermon years ago titled, When You're the Only Light in Your House. Be the light in your home. Be the light in your husband's life. And that means nurturing. When he comes home, even with the sheltering, go in the bedroom or another room. You guys have gone in different rooms during the day to do what you do, but go in there and be like, sit down, Indian style, whether it's on the floor or the couch or whatever, and tell him, come here, put your head on my lap. What are you thinking? What's going on? How's your day? And just, there's a nurturing that we genuinely have as women. And we take an interest in our children, in our mate, in our parents, in our friends, our neighbors. So at that time, it's to really engage. And it's just stroking of the hair, the eyebrows. If he's bald, that's cool. You can still stroke his head. But, but you know what I mean? Like, just have that woosah moment together. Yeah. And just be, you know, allow yourself to be the light. Notes. I have left notes on my kids' bedroom doors. They had Post-its. There were different colors for each one. You're going to ace this test. You're going to kick butt today, whatever. I was gone by the time they got the notes on the door, but you can do it for your man. Yeah. He'd go on business trips. I got a whole stack of notes every single day with a ribbon for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday that he can open for me. Love being in love. Don't stop, you know?
Yeah, and you know what, with that, I thought as a guy that was going to be kind of mushy for me, but I look forward to my business trips because she would hide them, didn't even tell me that they were going to be in there.
It's hard to do, man. But the thing is that then he would be like, hey, where's my note? And I'm like, oh, you can't ask for them. I do it when I want to do it.
It's a surprise, Tory. So listen, Dr. Jeff,
as a guy, I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I didn't even realize that was probably one of my love languages.
Right. No, I first of all my viewers, I love surprises. So I'm just saying, anytime. Dr. Jeff, let me get to you before I get myself in trouble.
I think you're already in trouble.
Right, with the network.
They love you. Don't worry about that.
So listen, you know, I'm going to ask you a similar question, and I'm going to follow it up.
Sure.
That being, give me 3 habits. Give me 3 love habits or habits of the heart that people should practice in the context of their relationship. And let's include single people in this, because, you know, not all of my viewers are married or in relationships. Some of them are single. So what are some habits of love that we can prepare ourselves for relationships or love the person we're with?
The first one is using my 3 favorite words, I love you. And using those words at different times during the day, even when you're not feeling it. Fake it until you can make it. Because sometimes you're not always feeling that love, but it becomes a habit, right? The second one is taking it a little bit further. And, you know, I know that sometimes people have sexual intimacy issues, performance issues, but that should not stop you from being intimate with your partner. That can be spooning, that could be holding hands. It's important to have physical contact just like our incredible couple here said, you know, smack her on the, you know, whatever. I'm getting so old, I can't even say those words anymore. Smack her on the whatever. Right. Thank you for saying it for me. And so thank you. But I think it's important that we have that kind of intimacy every day because it's an extension of our love. And the third thing, and what I found in my old age, that has been the most important thing in my marriage. One of the things that just blew my mind was that I practice every day being a friend. We started as friends. There was no physical attraction, no sexual attraction. And this thing about friendship is that you learn to love that person for who they truly are. It's almost like that song from Cinderella. Do I love you because you're beautiful, or are you beautiful because I love you? And that comes from friendship, because that friendship leads to love. So it doesn't matter what the person looks like. I used to be like you, Dr. Sean. Just go for the hottest persons. But I don't, you see, I know you. But now I only go for people who are friends. I don't care what they look like.
You just threw me under the bus. Did y'all see that?
Well, you got the cohiba later. Stop it.
That's the facts. I do have that. If I ain't got nothing else, I got cohiba later. So let me do a follow-up, and then I'm going to ask Teri a question. How important is empathy, Dr. Jeff?
It's everything. It's everything. Because empathy, there's, and Dr. Sean, you know this from your own studies, this age-old question, are we born with empathy or do we have to teach it? I believe we are all born with empathy. It's part of the collective unconscious. It's part of what has kept us on this planet as the preeminent species. But we've lost how to use empathy. If we can learn empathy, if we learn to use it every day, not only do we learn to love our partners, our husbands, our wives, our children, our families, but we learn to love mankind and womankind. We learn to love the life that we're in, and that just is a love that spreads out to everything.
I received that. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you.
We received it.
All right. So let me change gears a little bit. Teri, I'm going to ask you a question. Give me a concise answer because I got 10 minutes left. This hour is just going by hella fast, as they say in Oakland.
Well, if you were Claudia, you could take another 5 or 10 minutes after.
I'm not in there. Claudia, Dr. Jeff, you said it.
That's my girl. I love
Right. You guys work together. So listen, Teri, give me just a minute on this answer, right? Who taught you how to love?
Oh my God. My mother, my grandmother. It's our family. That is, that's our weapon. That's our weapon. And I have transferred that to my children because that is where our worth comes from. And no matter how many millions I would have, my net worth is my family. And I believe that. And I stay there.
All right, let's change gears. I'm gonna call this section, my last section of the show tonight, I'm gonna call it Everybody Wants to Know. All right. These are questions that everybody wants to know. But these are not necessarily my questions. Okay. But these viewers, I don't want to hear about this later on Twitter. These are questions that everybody wants to know. If you're in a party, going out, everybody wants to know. All right. This question is directed to Tory and Dr. Jeff. You got to give me concise answers. I'm running out of time.
Okay.
Why do men cheat?
Okay, I'll take it. A lot of men cheat because they have commitment issues. A lot of men cheat because it's the way that they were brought up. If you brought up without a father in the house and you see certain things and all, you tend to do those things as an adult because you don't know any better. And we have a saying, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know to be monogamous in a relationship, if you don't know to, just love your wife and love your wife only in that respect, then you're going to go out and do anything you want to. So
I got to stop you because I got to get Dr. Jeff if I run out of time.
Okay.
Jeff, why do men cheat?
Poor self-esteem. They're trying to prove something. Secondly, very self-destructive. Third, they hate themselves because not only do they destroy their own lives, but they destroy the lives of the people that they've cheated on and cheated with. It's just not a healthy thing in any way, and they really do need therapy.
Okay, all right. Again, these are questions everybody wants to know.
Okay.
Sean talking, Just people want to know. All right, Terry, this is for you. Don't throw nothing at me when I ask you this. All right. Why are women so needy? Look at Tory laughing.
I believe that women are needy because at some point in time, like we were talking about that love, they lack the validation that they needed from somebody at some point in some time. And so it's a yearning that just goes on and on and on, because sometimes it's generational even.
You see how concise she was, by the way? You see that?
Yes, she was.
We can learn a lot from her tonight.
All right. I was trying not to get my brothers in trouble, So
yeah.
I had to pace my answer.
Right, don't clap, don't say amen, just blink. How about that? All right, Dr. Jeff, this one is for you. How do you know when it's over?
It's been my experience when I ask couples, do you ask the individual in the couples, do you want to go to therapy to work it out? If they say they absolutely refuse to go to therapy, then I say the marriage is over. That's it. If one person within that marriage refuses to talk it out, to work it out, to find the techniques, then the marriage is over. Nothing's saving it at that point.
Wow, I did not expect you to say that.
It's true.
Wow.
It's true. It takes two to work it out. One person can't keep doing everything. It has to be two of them.
I love that. Okay. Tory, this one is for you. You ready?
Yep.
How do you know when it's more than just attraction?
That answer is so ambiguous. That question is so ambiguous because, when I met her, and I say her for a reason, but when I met my wife, something inside of me just said, this is it. This is the one. I didn't even hesitate in proposing to her. It was perfect answer here. When your souls can connect with each other. And I honestly believe our souls connected and are still connected to each other.
Dr. Jeff, I'm gonna ask you the same question. How do you know when it's more than just attraction?
When you are not looking at the physicality of the person and you are strictly looking at the friendship and looking at that person's heart. And I didn't mean to throw you under the bus. It's just that I know, Dr. Sean, I'm much older than you are. When I was younger, more your age, I was only interested in the hottest looking women. Now I'm interested in a smile, in a heart, in kindness, in joy. Those are the things that to me are such a turn on. And then the funny thing is, then I ended up getting the hottest woman there is because that's not what I was looking for.
Okay.
Well, I had to say that.
You made Teri clap. So I'm just saying, I'm going to clap with it. Tory ain't going to get you the only one ain't clapping. What's wrong?
I'm laughing, man. I'm gonna do
So listen. This one is for Teri. This one is for Teri. Everybody wants to know, after there's been infidelity in a relationship, can the relationship get over it and survive?
Yes.
Great question.
It can. You have to want your marriage, and you have to be willing to forgive. And this doesn't give anybody carte blanche, but you have to be willing to forgive in the sense that what's bigger? The marriage is bigger than us. It's bigger than us. It's a covenant. And so we have to be willing. We have to speak our hard truth, and we have to be able to state, this cannot happen again. But, have the conversation. Like my husband said, find out the whys. What can we do to fix this? Especially if the spouse that cheats wants to and is really, really sorry and wants to make right and amends, then you're supposed to forgive your brother how many times? 770. So you have to, at least do what you can to save your marriage. And that's what we're for. And we let people know that. And we hear the tears and we're like, we got this. You can do this. You got it. You can do this. You can do it.
In her words,
I'm gonna give you the last word, Teri, because I gotta go. Unlike some other people, listen, Dr. Jeff, Tory, and Teri Smith, I have so enjoyed talking to all of you today.
Pleasure.
You've added such richness to our understanding of relationships and love and marriage. Let's do this again. Let's do this.
Anytime.
Be
Can I
back
say
on.
one thing, please? Please.
Quickly.
Yes, I had mentioned earlier that I was talking to my uncle who had passed away and was sharing that he looks just like my uncle.
See there? Hashtag, let me leave that alone. All right, so thanks for tuning in, everybody. I will see you on Monday. Thank you, Dr. Jeff.
Pleasure.
Teri Smith. Listen, stay tuned for the Mike and Donnie show. They're up next. I will see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Go for a walk. Be good to each other. I love you.